Hello and welcome. You're with us here on Business Today Television. I'm Aabha Bakaya, and today I have the privilege of being with the entire management team here at Akasa Air. With me, Vinay Dube, founder and CEO at Akasa Air. We've got Praveen Iyer as well, co-founder and chief commercial officer, and Belson Coutinho, who's with us, co-founder and chief marketing and experience officer. I'm really interested to hear more from Belson on some of the unique things that they're curating, as well as, of course, all the news around fleet expansion and more. So let's dive in. Vinay, maybe we can start off with you because you did announce a few new initiatives today. You're also rapidly expanding it. It's only been about 60 days or so of functioning. I have had the delight of seeing one of the Akasa Air flights parked at Bangalore Airport, and it was really nice to see that flag flying. So tell us how the experience has been so far, the kind of response you've had, and some of what you've announced today.
Yeah. Sure, thank you. The reception so far has been great. So it's been exciting for us. It's great to see our aircraft actually flying because we've been working on this on a piece of paper for a long time. It's gratifying and satisfying to see some of the reception we've got from consumers, in particular on the customer experience. And Belson will talk more about it. But when people use words like warm or kind and considerate, these are things that make us incredibly happy because that's really the type of service that we aspire to deliver. By the numbers, the receptions has been good, and so today we're flying and have with us 6 aircraft. We get an aircraft every 15 days. We've announced Delhi as an additional city, and we're launching tomorrow from Delhi to Bangalore and Delhi to Ahmedabad. So overall, it's been really satisfying. And perhaps the most is just the commitment we've seen from our employees, and the level of ownership has been just absolutely outstanding.
Well, that's wonderful. It is something that's slightly intangible, isn't it? When you're creating or inculcating qualities, as you said, warm, kind, that attribution to a certain level or quality of service, not just in efficiency, but in a feeling, so to say. That's something fairly unique. As you said, you've been working on this, on paper for a long time. Have you found it challenging to try and inculcate this, communicate it to employees, how you want this taken forward, especially now as you're expanding?
It's always challenging. I think running an airline in and of itself is challenging, but building culture, and a culture of service is hard. Building any kind of culture is hard. But for us, we recognize that culture really for a company, any company, it doesn't have to be an airline, but culture is really the only sustainable competitive advantage you can have. We're incredibly proud of Cafe Akasa and the wonderful food that we serve. But can other people copy it? With time, they can. But culture is one that gives you a long-term sustainable advantage, which is very, very difficult to copy. And this culture of service, warm, reliable, efficient, kind. These are things that are difficult to build, but these are things that we're hyper-focused on. We talk about it every single day. Not a day goes by where we don't talk about the kind of culture that we want to build and what we're doing to build that culture. Yeah.
This is really interesting, and I'm going to come back on that as well. But let's talk about some of the initiatives in terms of experience that you've also announced today. One is, of course, allowing pets on board. That's a big one, and this isn't a special flight for pets. This is pets on board a regular aircraft. What happens, Belson, if I'm on a flight with a chihuahua next to me? I mean, what do I do about that situation?
Sure, yeah. No, it's a very exciting moment and announcement for us, yeah. And it's something very close to our heart. As much as we love flying our passengers, we want to do that same gesture to pets that we all love. So yes, we've made that announcement. Passengers can now actually carry a pet on board in the cabin, and also there's an option for passengers to carry it in the cargo compartment as well.
Okay. Right. And is this a first, or is it a pre-existing rule, but do airlines not do it, or have I just not seen a pet on board before?
Airlines do worldwide. We are, as I know, is second airline to do this.
Worldwide, not
no,
in India.
in India.
In India.
In India.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's a good start. Our sale for pet booking starts 15th of October, and the first pet, hopefully, we're looking to welcome on board on the 1st of November. So a very exciting time and moment for us.
And you have special seats designated for passengers with pets. Is that how it works?
So we're going to make sure that, we will have passengers carrying pets to be in the forward of the aircraft and as well as at the aft of the aircraft. Passengers will carry the pet with them, and of course, there are laid down rules and regulations, including vaccination and health certificates to be done, how the cage should be, what should be the mat that they use. So there are well defined processes and do's and don'ts. We are seeking help and leveraging an NGO that we've tied up with, because we are good at managing processes, but the softer side is equally important for us. So we're looking at all the best practices, all the good things that we should do as people, as our frontline staff, to take care of pets on board.
Okay. And with regards to Cafe Akasa, this has been a really good festive period, a lot of sales that you've seen. Diwali is also coming up. You alluded to the unique menu. Talk to us a little bit about that and what one can expect if one's going to be traveling Akasa.
Yeah, I love to talk about Cafe Akasa.
Going to make all our mouths water now.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And it's lunchtime too.
It's lunchtime as well. Yeah. So, Cafe Akasa is, I think, a very distinct, menu on board. It's just not the festival menu that we're doing, but I think the way our teams have curated, working with some of the best chefs out in the industry, to create a lot of industry first. I was reading a blog, one of the passengers who've flown twice, and both ways he said the best thing that he did was have hot chocolate on a flight, right? And you can imagine, and there's pasta, there's Vietnamese rolls, which are industry first. We will refresh our menu. It's not just one-off. On almost every 3 or 4 months, we'll have new menu that we're curating. We focus on health as well. So people, customers who are conscious of health, and I think all of us have the option to go for health menu as well. Festivals, India and festivals and food go hand in hand, right? And I think the team has done a wonderful job. We've got the Dussehra menu right now on our flights. We're seeing tremendous amount of uptake and interest in the menu that we're offering for Dussehra. We will do that for every festival. So it's a celebration of India, celebration of cultures, regions, etc., put together. So please do try when you fly the next time. You'll be really pleased and happy to pick up one of the menu that we have on board.
I'm looking forward to it, and especially since he's talked about how it's healthy and light. I think that's important, especially when you're flying. But talking about festive season and all the action, what about on the pricing front? And Praveen, that's the big question, right? In terms of how are you managing to do this? Everyone's always assumed that for a low-cost carrier, you either have to cut costs majorly. At a time like this, you've also got a lot of changes with regards to fare caps, a lot of competition in the market. What has the strategy been around pricing?
So objective is to be affordable and competitive.
Okay.
I think that's important as you have a pricing strategy in place. And that's exactly what we have been doing all along from the time we have started our operations. It's been benchmarked to competition. You've always remained competitive versus the industry in general. And as we expand our distribution and as we see our flights mature, we get better and better at that. Like when I highlighted the fact that we are at 30 today, in about 2 weeks, we go up to 44.
Okay.
So when you rapidly add flights on a frequent basis, you need to be watchful and mindful of how you are perceived in the market as well. Which is why I say we'll be competitive. Our objective is to position ourselves as affordable and provide the right connectivity within India. And 8 cities with 6 aircraft will provide exactly that.
So this is 8 cities, 6 aircrafts, including the additions that you're looking at currently.
As of 21st of October, okay. That's correct.
And when you first launched, you talked about how it was the access from metros to the smaller towns that you were looking at building as something that was unique to you. Is that, again, going to continue to be your USP? Or in time to come, would you look at, of course, being a full, somebody with a complete bouquet of routes? Or would you like to maintain this particular USP?
So it's always important for any airline to establish a base. As we get our first few aircraft, our objective is to set that base. And that's what we do with the initial set of aircraft. And you will see that effective 21st, we get into Guwahati, we get into Agartala, which is the tier 2 cities. And you can establish that only after you've set up a base on your focus cities, which are the likes of Bombay, Ahmedabad, Bangalore, Cochin, Chennai, and now we are at Delhi, effective the 7th. That enables you now to create tier 2, tier 3 connectivity because you have formed your base. And with an aircraft coming every fortnight, it becomes that much more easier to complement the network in a way where we can drive traffic into tier 2 cities.
Okay. So talk to us about the kind of vision you have, Vinay, because would it be fair to assume that, it's well funded, there is a certain cushion right now, to create a certain experience, to ensure that there's a certain, customer appeal for the brand, as you sort of kick off operations. Do you feel this is sustainable, just given the hyper competitive market that we're in and the fact that it is a challenging industry from a cost perspective? What is the vision, the longer term vision then going forward?
Absolutely, I think this is sustainable. We say we're building this airline, not just for our lifetime, but for everyone's grandchildren to be able to fly it. So the idea is to build a long-term durable business. Aviation is competitive, but I think most businesses are. And this is something that we know, and yes, we're well funded. You asked Praveen about the cost structure and the compatibility with fares, but there's some things that don't cost much.
Okay.
For example, to have a reliable and dependable on-time network is actually cheaper to fly than flying a network that's always late. It doesn't, from a fuel efficiency perspective, having new, ultra modern, highly fuel efficient aircraft gives us a cost advantage, but also creates an experience for the customers which is superior.
Sure.
So oftentimes people think customer experience and cost and fiscal prudence are contradictory, but in my view, mostly they are complementary.
Okay.
And so, we think that we will be able to establish a highly competitive cost structure, but we will be able to create a customer experience on the backs of a very experienced management team that should be able to create a sustainable business. So we're confident that these are just the first steps we're taking, to create a company that's going to be around well beyond our lifetime.
So there were some concerns or curiosity, especially at the time of RJ's passing, on really what kind of runway perhaps the initial funding had given. Are there any future plans for further capital infusion? Is that something that's going to be on the cards anytime soon, or what is the kind of horizon for that?
No plans at all for any kind of future funding. Okay. Where, as we've said before, we are eternally grateful to Mr. Jhunjhunwala. He's left us in a good position. As far as the airline is concerned, of course, it's not a good position, with the sadness that we all feel with his demise. But at this point, there's no plans for additional funding. We're well capitalized. We're not looking to raise any more money.
Did that have an impact in terms of perception, association with the brand, morally, or just in terms of, the enthusiasm around the brand story? Did that have an impact post his demise?
I think when you have someone like Mr. Jhunjhunwala associated with the brand, you do get a lot of free publicity. And by the way, I'm going to focus on the business aspect of him. It should be taken for granted the kind of sadness that we and his family feel, obviously, with his demise. So we got a lot of attention just by being associated with Mr. Jhunjhunwala, but we all knew that attention for any business only lasts so long. In fact, our view was that attention, and this is, by the way, something that we talked freely with Mr. Jhunjhunwala, because he was telling us one day, do you all think that you need a brand ambassador? And my answer to him directly was absolutely not. I said, Rakesh, you are the brand ambassador. It's good enough. We don't need. anybody. But in that conversation, we talked about how long that would last. And our thought was that it typically will last only up until your first flight.
Right.
So all the brand halo we got, we knew would stop or be curtailed the minute you put that first aircraft in the air, the minute the first passenger got on board. Because after that, it really is a story of how we take care of our customers. And that's where we are today. And that's where we would have been today under different circumstances as well. It's now, the proof is now in the pudding. How are we taking care of our customers? And so far, it's been 60 days and we're pleased with where we are.
He was always very bullish, of course, on, the India story, the domestic story, and therefore, of course, consumption and the number of people that would travel. Now, we're also seeing this in the way we're seeing rapid expansion in terms of the number of airports, the kind of, parking bays that are available, and so on and so forth. How has been the experience in that context, Praveen, in terms of the ease with which, you've been able to deal with the authorities, get some of those priority slots, perhaps for Akasa? What has that experience been like? Has it been easier than perhaps one would have anticipated? Has it been challenging?
The experience has been fabulous. I think right from the time we filed for the NOC till we got the AOC and we took off with the first flight, our experience with the ministry, with the DG has been fabulous. No questions asked. They've been so cooperative and so transparent with us into where we stand, how things are moving, etc., etc. Let's come to the parking slots, which is more the core question around this. Let's face it, it's a growing economy. Airports continue to grow. There are constrained airports today, but there are very many slots available despite airports being constrained. We are happy. When we wrote the script way back in September, October of 2020, I don't think we had Bombay in mind. But here we are with an aircraft parked in Bombay and more slots coming out of Bombay. So clearly, it's what we envisaged versus where we are today. We're extremely happy. And moving forward, we are extremely happy with the response we're getting from the airports. Okay. And the infrastructure is building. You look at Bombay, though it's constrained a little, you got Navi Mumbai coming up in about a couple of years. Right. In Delhi, you got Jewar Airport coming up in about a couple of years. So the infrastructure is building. The passenger numbers are going to grow from 200 million to 400 million. That's the reality. Pre-COVID versus what we're going to see in the next 7 to 8 years. Airplanes are going to grow as a result. We're at 700 airplanes today in this country. You will see 1,500 airplanes in about 7 to 8 years. It has to happen because the growth engine is so strong. We're such a self-sustainable economy that you will see the infrastructure contributing to this whole aspect. And we are very happy that as an airline, we have probably come in at the right time. There is no baggage of COVID with us. We have entered at the right time, and we believe, and history has been witness to this. Every time the industry has seen a lull of 1 or 2 years, it just bounces back with a vengeance. Sure. So the next 2 to 3 years are going to be extremely strong for the industry. Infrastructure is going to be up and running by then. As a result, in exactly the way Mr. Jhunjhunwala was highlighting time and again, the next 10 years is going to be by far the best that India has witnessed as an economy, more so the airline industry. That's what you'll see.
It's exciting to hear. But okay. And while we're talking about, regulations in the government, on the pricing front, with ATF prices skyrocketing, for instance, is there anything else that we could, expect or hope for from the government in terms of easing things for the sector?
Lots, actually. I think it's first of all, you would have seen a lot of airports have actually reduced VAT on fuel. That's been extremely helpful. And part of our approach has also been to make sure that we approach airports where the cost can be as minimal as possible. Because as a new entrant, we need to make sure that we put our money where the mouth is. And there is lots done already. And there's lots to be done in the future. And they have taken several steps towards aiding the airlines, with the most recent announcement coming up yesterday. So clearly, a lot of things are being done. There is a lot of focus around this industry. The growth engine is something which the ministry is focusing on, and sustainable growth. Because what's important is all that we see and we will witness in the future is sustainable. And that's what they're ensuring. And that becomes a critical element, because historically you've seen growth. It's been driven around price wars. It's been driven around indiscipline in pricing, which has created that artificial demand and just collapsed. That's not what we see now. We see matured players. We see a lot of discipline around how they conduct themselves. And there is a lot of help and aid coming to make sure that this is sustainable and not a jump and then a sharp drop, which is not going to help anybody. Because every time you see capacity move out of the market, you see a sudden surge in pricing, which is not good for the consumer as well.
Exactly. Do you feel in this context we're also going to see a shakeout, Vinay? Everyone's eyeing the aviation sector with a lot of interest, with certain operators coming back, certain new operators taking over. For instance, what we're seeing with Air India, we've got Jet in the works, and some of the others where there is speculation about whether they'll survive. So do you feel there will be a shakeout? And, who do you see as your major competition?
These types of questions always get the person that really answers them into trouble.
Yes.
So I will have to evade that and give you a very generic answer, but a truthful answer as well. That we honestly, as I said, running an airline, running a good airline is hard enough. Worrying about what the competition is doing and who's going to do what, etc. For us, we find, quite frankly, to be a bit of a waste of time. So we genuinely, with my colleagues here, we just don't spend a lot of time saying, is X going to be around or Y going to be around? We're really focused on our core. And like I said, that's a genuine response. So beyond that, do I have sort of a flippant comment here about this or that or the other? I probably am thinking about something in the back of my head, but not something that I can air out loud.
As Praveen also mentioned in terms of how the sector is maturing, you have so much experience as well, having been in the industry for so long. What are some of the learnings that you would apply, given that this is now a baby that's taken flight and one that you're building, as you said, with a vision for a sustainable company way into the future? What are some of those learnings that you would implement or are implementing here at Akasa?
I think there are plenty. I mean, first, I can name 3 or 4 or 5, but aviation is such a complex business. You've got the operating element of it. You've got it's large, sort of capital intensive business. You've got the people side of it and the service side of it. So it really, someone sneezes in Ireland and you can be affected by, aviation in India. It's so susceptible to different market forces. But there are certain learnings that we are putting in place. First and foremost is to have a world-class management team. You have to have professionals running aviation. It just doesn't work in the long run without it. You've got to be well capitalized. You've got to have a highly competitive cost structure. Your growth has to be commensurate with the growth of the industry. And so the reason I say that is because in some cases you've got to have capacity discipline. In other cases you've got to grow fast. And so you've got to have these commensurate. You've got to be certainly customer centric, but you've also got to be employee centric. My view is those are the ones that have the most sort of durable businesses, the ones that are employee centric. So these are some of the parts that we are implementing. As I talked about, employee centric culture, a culture of service, a culture of cost. So these are the things we are implementing as we talk about, because these are the things that will sort of make or break an airline. Yeah.
So while airline carriers are definitely trying to create an experience that's more personalized and curated, what you're saying is it doesn't necessarily have to be more cost intensive.
It doesn't. So for example, we asked the question, why can't you get a salad on board for 500 rupees? If you can get, noodles, if you can get, add water and create poha and upma and, all the variety of things that we offer ourselves. But why can't someone pay an extra 300-400 rupees and get a salad on board or Vietnamese spring rolls or a wonderful... These are things that don't cost us anything. If the consumer, is willing to pay for it and that improves their experience, then why not? Sure. In fact, my view, and people will laugh, but I would rather pay money and get food that I like and I'm ordering in advance than necessarily get, a tray of something that I don't know and don't care for. So in my view, what we are doing is actually full service. And like I said, this may be a contradictory view because people often associate full service with the fact that you get free food, no matter what the quality of that food is. So there are things like that. Or to have a softer cushion doesn't cost that much. Why does your tailbone have to hurt at the end of a 3-hour flight when adding an inch of cushioning doesn't cost that much? Right? So there are many things like that. Just having a smile and being kind and being empathetic doesn't cost that much. Or as I said, before, running on time is actually cheaper than running late. So my view, very, very strongly is that you don't have to necessarily divorce the customer experience from being, cost leader. And that's where we are going. That's what we'd like to build.
Okay. And a quick question on the leisure routes or holiday travel routes. Is that something you're looking at or would plan to add at some stage?
Absolutely. Yeah. With 72 airplanes coming in, there is hardly any route that we can't look at. Be it domestic, be it international. I think we continue to evaluate routes. And leisure has been a strong growth engine for the country. And then they call it bleisure now, where you mix business with leisure. So clearly, very many routes will be announced.
Praveen wanted us to be in Goa already. Unfortunately, we're not there. The airport's not ready. But just talking about leisure, there's nothing more leisurely than Belson's hometown.
I want to go home for a good offer.
So absolutely, you'll see a lot of those. And like I said, if Praveen had his way in and he could get the airport ready, we'd be flying there already. So some of these network moves we've got to evolve and, based on what's available as well.
Are we going to have something special for the Goa flights, for all those holiday Goas? Belson, are you planning?
There's always something special on Akasa flights, right? And, for us, it's just about how we treat our customers, right? Warm, friendly, kind. And I think if we're able to create that inclusive environment, irrespective of where you travel, how you travel, you're going to have customers coming back. And I think that's the focus for us. That's where we're investing a lot of our time and energy, right from selecting our people, our crew, to training that we do. And we do a lot of flights ourselves to go and just observe as passengers to see where can we improve, right? And as Vinay said, when we started many, many months ago and we were writing down what are the attributes that we would love to have, and the same attributes are being talked about by customers. And I was telling Vinay, I look at our customer feedback every day. I look at our NPS every day, and I see those heat maps with words like warm and empathy. And I said, Vinay, I'm happy. I think we're on the right track, right? And thanks to the team that's, we sit down and put these things on paper. We sit down and define what it should be, but it's the team on ground that delivers the spirit of what we come.
And on the piece of paper, if you remember, we had people friendly, customer friendly. When I say people, employee friendly, customer friendly.
Yeah.
And there was a third element which we put in, which was pet friendly as well.
That's right.
Which we finally went live today. So happy at that. But the pertinent point, and I think Vinay brought this about, just because you're a low cost carrier doesn't mean you cut corners, doesn't mean you cannot have the best customer experience. I think that's the crux of it.
And I love to say this with your permission. There's nothing low cost at Akasa about customer experience, right? And that's the spirit, and that's what we tell our teams.
And we will have a go in special. We'll be disappointed if we don't have a go in special.
Yeah, exactly. I'm imagining, martinis and.
Not sure about that, but
we can have virgin martinis. Yes,
I agree. Those little umbrellas in the glass.
I like to keep some secrets. So, of course, our team really talks and focuses on what can we do differently, not just on our onboard experience in terms of the menu that we create, but all small touches that we can do. right from the cabin experience that you see right now. When I talked about just a 1-inch extra foam that gives you comfort to, designing and curating, menu on board that is, that people find happiness and joy. So yeah, I mean, it's work in progress. There's always something new, and we'll continue to invest in that.
Amazing. Gentlemen, thank you so much. I wish you all the luck, and thank you for taking out the time today. Great having you with us here on Business Today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching, and do stay tuned. Lots more coming up.
If you like the video, do like, comment, share and subscribe.